Welcome to the War Scouts Basketball Podcast with Mike and Naim. We're happy to finally be here with you for our first podcast. I'm Naim Cardinal. I'm here with my bro, Michael Swampy, aka Swampy, as many of you know him, for our introduction episode. And we're going to bring you so much from the Indigenous basketball scene and as well as athletic scene. But we'll get more into that a little later. How are you doing, Mike? It's good to be here with you.
Doing good. I'm excited. This is something we've been looking forward to for the last year or so. I asked you last year, and then you kept bugging me. So now we're doing it. It's official.
Yeah, it's good. Excited. I remember we both got mics and hung on to them for about a year before we decided to do this. But yeah, it's great to be here. I'm just joining you from the traditional ancestral unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan peoples, home of Syilx basketball. Just want to take a moment to acknowledge all the territories that you're joining us from. Where are you joining us from, Mike?
Yeah, so I'm the province over. I'm in Alberta. I'm representing Treaty 6 territory, and yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'm living in Kelowna now. I've been out here for about 4 years. I previously was living in Edmonton for like 18 years, but yeah, it's so good to be here. Mike and I both have really busy lives. We have families. Mike just finished up grad studies, finished a master's degree, which is really awesome. Congratulations. And you recently had a new baby in the home. Tell us about what it's like being a new dad.
Yeah, I took on 2 new titles. People now have to call me a master of education. It's kind of crazy. No, I'm just kidding. And the other title is obviously being a new dad. So being called a father is quite a new experience and exciting. Yeah, learning on the fly, that's for sure.
That's awesome, and that's the best you can do. I have a family too. I got 3 small kids, and it's a beautiful experience. It's one of the best things that I'll ever have in my life, and I'm really grateful that I have 3 great children and happy to be a dad. Yeah, so as we mentioned, we've been talking about doing this for a while now. So, Mike, why are we doing a podcast?
Just in conversations with even just my wife and a couple of friends back here, it was just kind of gaining an understanding as to why we're doing this. And I think one of the best things I could say about it would be that we're kind of, it's a very niche market. It's something that Naim and myself thoroughly enjoy is basketball, and people who are Indigenous and are playing basketball. I think it's important to create an archive for people who want to learn about our history and sort of what the sport has been to Indigenous peoples in Western Canada. And then last year, just completing my master's, my focus has been sort of Indigenous sport and sort of how can we make that better and expand upon it. And I think this podcast is one of those things that could definitely help.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. When you and I were first talking about this and we were sharing our reasons why, obviously the big reason is our love for basketball and what it's done for both of us. And that's what brought us together. And, thinking about all the people that we've identified who have amazing stories, people who we've known for years, people who we've looked up to for a long, long time, people who are coming up in the game of basketball. We want to share their stories, and we want to be able to have communities hear about that and how important they are and what the game of basketball has done, because it's more than a game. When you play basketball, it does so much more for you. A lot of doors have opened up to me because of the game of basketball, and I probably wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for the game of basketball. So I'm really grateful for that. Why do you think it's important that we're sharing those stories, Mike?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's important to acknowledge that you and I, through the sport of basketball, got to know each other, and I think that's also one of the factors as to why we created this podcast, because you develop so many relationships with other people, and you kind of want to keep those relationships with the other people. And one of the ways in which we can do so is, bring them on a pod and have a conversation, and so I think that's important as well. But what was your question again?
What was my question?
Yeah.
Oh, it was a why do you feel it's important to share these stories and create this archive?
Oh yeah. 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 I think I
Yeah.
answered you. No.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Over the years, like I've met a lot of people who become like brothers to me, an extended family. Just some really good friends who I share a lot of memories with, have a lot of amazing experiences with, a lot of ups and downs with, who we share our lives with all the time. And we still stay connected to this day, even though, like, we've been playing basketball for a long time now. Even if we're not playing together, like I've moved away 4 years ago, and I've still remained in contact with all of our old teammates from our War Scouts team. And yeah, that War Scouts team has been together initially since 2012, but we've been playing together for years before that. And War Scouts is kind of like it's been our thing together that we've shared. And being able to travel across Canada to play basketball and to spend that time together and build those relationships with each other has been really special to me. And just the things that we've both seen in our travels together over the years, Mike, like I think that people should hear about some of those stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And 80% of them are probably, funny stories that where we like to poke fun at certain scenarios, but the other 20% is very heartfelt. There, we do develop bonds with people, and it's those bonds that keep us together.
Yeah, totally. And I'm so grateful for that, and like that we get to continue that to this day and start a podcast. Like that's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we're going to transition to now is we're going to introduce ourselves. A lot of you might not know us. Some of you do know us. I obviously Swampy he's a big name in the Indigenous basketball community. You're an awesome basketball player, like one of the best shooters that I've ever played with. Very knowledgeable. You do a lot for your community. What do you remember about how you and I met?
What do I remember? I remember. Oh, I'm trying to think of what the year was when we first met. Was it ENBA, the basketball camp?
Yeah,
Was that
I
what?
think that was 2006 or 7.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
2007, I
So
think.
it was yourself, and we're gonna name drop here, but it was Jake Alexis, Ross Steinhauer. Yeah, but nonetheless, I think we met at a basketball camp, and I was one of the players, and Name happened to be one of the coaches, and we just sort of became friends from that experience, and then from there we kind of kept in contact. And uh, it wasn't really until I met Name that I started actually playing res ball, and so going to tournaments and that sort of thing. And we were out of Musquecheese, and I'll get to my introduction later. But it was myself and four of my other friends who had developed a club team from Musquecheese, and we had played, but we didn't really play in res tournaments. And so when I had met Name, we had some adventures together from there.
Yeah, that was a good time. I can't remember where it was, where that basketball camp was, but I remember it was, I think it was near the St. Paul area. And I
Mhm.
remember it was at a campground, and there was some basketball courts there. And yeah, you were there with Dakota and Sean and David, the whole Musquecheese Warriors crew. And yeah, it was a great time. I think I think you had a cast on your hand that time, if I remember. Or was that a little bit later?
No, I think you're remembering that right. I had just broke my left thumb playing spring league basketball, and I had swiped down on a ball, or tried to swipe on the ball, but my thumb landed on a guy's quad, and it went like that, and I jammed it and ended up breaking. And
Oh
so
no,
I had a cast on my left hand for all that summer.
that would be brutal to break your thumb like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, that camp was put on by the ENBA, the Edmonton Native Basketball Association, which was created and run by the late Alan Ross. And I think was we need to acknowledge and credit Alan for a lot of the things that we've experienced over the years, including bringing us together and giving us opportunities that in basketball that we might not have had otherwise. He had a great organization going there, and he's dearly missed.
Absolutely. Yeah, the late Alan, he was instrumental in developing basketball within Edmonton and giving urban Indigenous peoples an opportunity to play basketball. And he gave me one of my first job as a summer coach in high school. And yeah, he was a man of opportunity, and he definitely aimed to provide it for Indigenous folks, and he wore that well on his heart and sleeve. So yeah,
totally. All right, so we're going to do some introductions here, and I think Mike's going to get us going by asking me a few questions, and then I'll get into asking him a few questions so you can get to know him a little bit better.
We got a series of grueling questions here, so our listeners can finally get to know who we are. First question: who are you, and where are you from?
Yeah, my name is Naim Cardinal. I'm kahkiyaw or Cree. I'm a member of the Tall Cree First Nation. I grew up in Fort Vermilion, Alberta, which is about 7 hours north of Edmonton. And I'm also a dad, as I mentioned before. I'm a husband. I'm an educator, and I grew up in the north. Very, very small community. There's probably 700 people in our community. We had a school that we called a high school, I guess, that was grades 7 to 12. And we had about 100 students in our entire school, but a very tiny graduating class, like 14 students were graduating from it. And I didn't know a lot about basketball when I was growing up, but I just knew that I loved it. And I come from a big family. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and it was a very, very small house that we grew up in. I didn't grow up very wealthy or anything or well off, and sports were my escape from everything that was going on at home and in my community, and that's what kept me occupied.
Absolutely. You're from the area, as Jake would say, from the sticks.
Yeah, I'm from the sticks, and he loves to remind me of
that. Yeah. So being in such a small community, how did you get into basketball? What were some of the reasons why you decided to play basketball?
Well, basketball in my community was just, for a lot of people, it was just something to do. Like most of the people I knew, because we had a small school, played every sport. But for me, I didn't take it seriously until I was about 15. I loved ice hockey. I really loved hockey. And when I was in my elementary years, pretty much probably to grade 8 or 9, I was really consumed by hockey. I always dreamed of being a hockey player. And like I mentioned, our family wasn't very well off, so couldn't afford to put me in the hockey. Couldn't afford equipment, couldn't afford registration fees, couldn't afford travel, all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until I was starting to be a teenager that I finally realized that dream was come and gone. So one summer I just started playing basketball, and I really enjoyed it, and I was playing it all the time. I had a friend that came to visit me. He moved away to Edmonton at the end of grade 6 or 7, and he got really good at basketball. And he came back home and kind of taught me a lot of lessons. And I got a lot better that summer from playing with him, and I guess just getting destroyed out on the basketball court, made me want to be better. And that year, when it came back into school, I had a growth spurt. Like at the end of grade 10, I was probably 5'6". By the end of summer, I come back to school as 6'1", really lanky, skinny kid, probably about 150 pounds. But I just love basketball. It made me feel good about myself. Like I found a lot of like self-worth in the game of basketball, and seeing myself improve all the time. And it drove me to keep going back to the basketball court and put in time to play. And it really like gave me a lot of self-confidence for myself. And but also at the same time, like it also, like if I wasn't playing well, it also brought me down a lot. But it made me open my eyes up to like how hard work can get you places. And I just fell in love with the game. That summer, like I think Kobe Bryant was like a rookie in the NBA. So I'm just kind of dating myself here. I was 15 going on 16, and watching him play in the NBA, I thought he was probably one of the most amazing basketball players I ever saw. And all of that kind of stuff. Like I just totally like dedicated my life to basketball. Like everything was basketball. Like I had basketball jerseys on all the time. The walls in my bedroom were covered in posters. A lot of like, I bought Slam magazine all the time, cut pictures out of there. My walls were covered from like the ceiling to the floor, like all these different basketball players. And it just like, it was awesome. Like it made me dream. Like basketball was the one thing that made me dream, like made me like see myself getting so much further in my life. And
Yes,
it was like
absolutely.
motivation for me. I remember sitting in my room watching like VHS tapes of like basketball games that I recorded, and just standing there and like dribbling the basketball, and just really like thinking about that. This is like so much nostalgia that's tied to that, and like so much like of that feeling like anything can happen. And I just saw myself out on the basketball court. Like whenever I thought of myself, that's where I was. And that is like why I started playing, just because like it's just such a great game. Like, there's so much athleticism involved. You need to be in great shape to play. And it's just fun. Like it's fun competing. It's fun doing every single thing out on the floor. Like if you're scoring a basket, if you're getting a rebound, grabbing the loose ball, all those things. It's fun to be competitive, and basketball brought that out of me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just thinking, like, getting destroyed. One of the first things when you start playing, you play against other kids and kids who might be better than you, or if you have older brothers like I did, and they just bully you on the basketball court. But then you start seeing progression, and you could actually see yourself getting better, and you start developing confidence. And I think that's so huge. That was huge for us, and it's huge for Indigenous kids all around the like North America, right? Yeah. I think that's basketball can just have such a huge impact on a person's development and their growth and basic understanding of what they kind of want to do in life, right? So what level of basketball did you end up getting to play?
I wound up I wound up redshirting 1 year at Concordia in Edmonton. My journey was like a very interesting journey. Like when I moved to Edmonton, it's just a whole different scene coming from my community. To be honest, like I never had like really any like great coaching. Like no offense to my coaches, like I know like what it takes to coach, and like you dedicate your time and your energy into being there for kids. And I think that was really important for me. But the things that I started to learn about and recognize that I needed in my game that I didn't get from playing high school in my community. And that's nobody's fault. I'm not blaming anybody for that, but the basketball in Edmonton.
Shout out to all the phys ed teachers who are forced into coaching situations. I see you.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. And I just like I started recognizing a lot of different things that I needed to do. And like basketball in Edmonton, coming from my community, like what you said is like up in the sticks, like just different level. Like you're looking at like high school players coming out of 4A, and I'm coming out of this 1A school in this tiny community, where basketball is not a thing. Like we have a lot of great athletes who came out of my high school, but a lot of them were focusing on other sports. We had a lot of hockey players on our team, like really, really good hockey players who were playing basketball, and some of that game from hockey to basketball is like a kind of a smooth transition for them, and they were really good athletes. And we also had like volleyball players who were playing basketball, and like that athleticism from like jumping and just moving around on the floor, like laterally in all different positions, was like really helpful for them to come and play basketball. But like there's not too many people who were like actually like dedicated to the game of basketball. And I think there's one other person from my community who played college basketball, but he played at Nate, and he went to high school in Edmonton, so it was a like bit of a different transition for him. And when I got to Edmonton, it was so overwhelming for me. I was so like seeing how good everyone was. Like you're thinking about guys who are coming out of 4A and going straight into like university or college basketball, like they're good. And me trying to like match up with these guys, it's just not a matchup. And even like having like proper basketball IQ, I started really late. So like I had to like pick up a lot of things and start to learn like on the fly. And it was quite a big transition for me. So like when I got to Concordia, it was also like very like overwhelming for me, and like caused a lot of like anxiety for me. Like I went to tryouts, but I wound up just like cutting myself. Like I I stopped going to tryouts. I probably could have made the team. And then what happened was like that my first year at Concordia, I failed out of school, and then I moved back home. Wasn't working for a while, really struggling mentally, and I wound up moving to Slave Lake, because my mom and dad were living there at the time, because my mom was going to school. And I that whole time when I was there, I just dedicated myself to playing basketball and wanting to make a basketball team. And like I didn't know how to work hard. Like I didn't know how to efficiently work to get to that level, but I knew I had to work hard. So I was like running all the time. I was at the court. I was working on my handle. I was shooting. I remember one time I would go for like long distance runs. I used to do that with a basketball, and I'd like run down the street with the basketball. And I was running by these apartments one time, and this guy came out on his balcony, and he was like, "Settle down." I started laughing, and I kept going, and I was like, "What the heck?" But anyway, like I I I I think I worked up myself to a place where I probably could have made the team that year coming back. But again, I had a friend who was trying out. He decided that he didn't want to play anymore, so he stopped going to tryouts. And then I found out he wasn't going, and he was kind of like my safety net while I was there. And I wish I wasn't like that, but he was my safety net. And I probably could have like walked on the basketball team, and like nobody knew who I was. Like I'm coming from like the sticks, and yeah, like I probably could have walked on there, and like nobody knew me, and I was good enough to play at that time. But I just decided not to go anymore because he stopped going. I didn't try out again until my last year of school when I was finishing up my degree. And yeah, I walked on the team, and they like initially cut me, and then they came back and asked me if I wanted to redshirt, and I said yeah. And then that year, like I just like got better and better and better, and by the end of the year, I was dressing for games, so it was pretty cool. Like it was a really positive experience for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was what years was this? Probably early 2000s, little
yeah,
later.
the year I was on the basketball team was 2005-06, so it was like
Like years before and they obviously have a lot of support for Indigenous students now at the university level, and being able to provide spaces, safe spaces for a lot of Indigenous students at many universities nowadays. But back then, those didn't exist for
No,
the
it
most
was
part.
yeah, no, like it was tough to be in a university. Like there was no like Indigenous student support services,
Hmm.
and to be honest, like I probably count on one hand the number of like visible Indigenous students that I saw on campus.
Yeah, and it is nerve wracking being away from home and then being in the classroom, being the only visible minority in central Alberta. Like, yeah, it can be nerve wracking, especially during those times. Way back when. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah, way back when.
So now that we just brought that up, what sort of things are you doing now with basketball and sort of your career? Um, what you've been up to?
Yeah, so I'm now an educator. Like I used to be a high school teacher for a while, and I worked in the community supporting Indigenous youth. And that's kind of how I got back, how I became a teacher. Um, I finished my degree at Concordia. It was like a Bachelor of Arts, and then I worked in community for a while, and then I decided to go back to school and do an after degree in education. And then I started being a teacher after that. I worked in Enoch for a couple of years, Enoch Cree Nation, and then now I'm over here in Kelowna. I work at EBC Okanagan. My job is called an educational facilitator, and I educate our campus community about truth and reconciliation, history of residential schools, and really just try to teach people about Indigenous history and culture. And I'm not really like, honestly, like I haven't played basketball in probably 8 months, so I don't know if I can call myself a baller anymore. But I did
We're we're
get in.
we're still trying to recruit you back, try and
Yeah,
get you back
yeah,
in.
yeah. It's tough, and yeah, I coached for a long time. Coached for probably 10 years in Edmonton. Coached with the Musqueam Chiefs Warriors basketball club. I coached with the NBA. I coached at Center High Prep for 2 years. We coached together at Amiskwachi, and then I coached in Enoch for a year. But I haven't really been involved in basketball a ton out here, other than just like playing men's league, and I haven't done that this year. Yeah, so you've had a chance to hear a little bit about me. What about you, Mike? Tell us about who you are and where you're from.
I am a member of Samson Cree First Nations out in Musqueam. That's where I grew up, and I basically grew up in a small town, just 15 minutes from Musqueam and Wetaskiwin. So I had my basketball journey began with my older brother. He was one of my first influences, somebody who I had looked up to, and when we stopped playing with toys, we started going outside a little bit more. And so one of the things that he started doing was playing ball, and he played ball with a lot of his friends who were very much older than me. And so I being the little brother, I joined along whether he liked it or not, and till eventually they let me play, and they absolutely dominated me. But like much very similar to your situation, playing basketball, you have so many opportunities to see yourself succeed, and I thought that was very important for my development. Something that I was physically able to do and physically able to see my ability grow and my skill grow, and I was able to see success. And so I think I started playing when I was 10, and then Wetaskiwin does this awesome thing for kids grades 4 to 6, and they have practices. Well, they have a basketball league for these grades, and so it's called WNBA, and I had joined it and started playing, practicing, and I started scoring points. And from there, I developed a love for the game. And fast forward a couple of years, I played my grade 10 of high school basketball in Wetaskiwin. We did fairly good, and then my family ended up moving to Edmonton, and so we moved from this small town to a big city, and I ended up attending Jasper Place High School, and boy, the level of competition was drastic. You move from a small little local town to playing against guys who had played on the junior national team. That was quite the change. It was something that, looking back, I think helped me tremendously. It seeing a lot of success at the local level, at the smaller level. It kind of got to my head, and being at that age, you're a cocky little twerp at that age. And so when I had moved from basically Wetaskiwin to Edmonton, I got humbled big time. And so I realized I needed to work on my game. And so that's what I did. And I also had a coach, Rick Stanley, at that time, who was, oh boy, he was really intense. He was an intense coach for sure.
Yeah, Rick was great to work with. I got to see a little bit into him on on the sidelines of a basketball court, and it was a big learning experience for me. But I could definitely see that intensity that you're talking about.
Yeah, I remember, and I was telling this story just not too long ago. But I was talking with a ref who happened to be one of the refs for 4A provincials. So 4A is like one of the top tier leagues for the much larger schools, and then it goes all the way down to 1A. 1A schools are like population of 100, but 4A is the cream of the crop in Alberta. So this is my grade 12 year. We gone 18-0 in league, so we won the city championship for Edmonton, and then we go down to Lethbridge, and we were playing in I think it was semifinal game. And I think we were matched up against Bishop Grandin. And so there's about 4 seconds left in the game. We're up 1. It's our inbounds. One of my teammates has the sideline inbound. He throws it to one of the players to the opposite side of the court, goes over top of their head. The ball doesn't touch the court, so the other team gets it on our end, same sideline.
Oh, no.
And there's 4 seconds left, and we're up 1. So they get their inbounds. And so they inbound the ball, and the guy takes 2 dribbles, 3-point line, goes and shoots. And Seb Cava, he goes and closes it out. And this was before they had created an offensive foul when a guy would kick out their foot. So the guy kicks out his foot when he's shooting. Seb makes contact with him. They call a foul on Seb. And so he's shooting 3 shots. And by that time had already expired. And so the guy basically has 3 shots to win the game. Well, he has to make 2 of them. He misses the first. He makes the next 2, and we lose on a foul call in the semifinals. No. And we were absolutely devastated. I wasn't on the court at that time, but I was gutted. And then we go inside the locker room, and I'm just hoping Rick is, I hope he just says, we have a 3rd place game tomorrow. Let's get ready for that. But in true Rick Stanley fashion, he comes in and he gets mad at us. he yells at us for the final time. And I just remember sitting there like, this guy's personality does not change at all. And so he yells at us, and then he tells us to get ready for a 3rd place game tomorrow. And we're just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. But, he was true to his coaching strategy, and that's how he coached. So I really appreciated that, though, of him, his coaching style. And I remember when you would often coach us in Musco Cheese, I would tell you, you got to yell at us more. You got to get the best out of us.
Yeah. Sometimes you need those like hard lessons and to teach you new things. And I think Rick was one of the best at recognizing that, and is still the best at recognizing that. And I was trying to pick up some of that intensity from him while we were working together and coaching together, but didn't always translate for me.
No, and from high school, I was given an opportunity to try out for Augustana, and so I went and tried out at Augustana in Camrose, and it's the University of Alberta Augustana campus. So basically, I played for the U. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's still an ACAC school, and so Had an opportunity to go to the open tryout, and I had attended the university already, and it was a university that I wanted to attend because it was much closer to home. It was local. Camrose is only like 20 minutes away from Wetaskiwin, and so I got to see a lot of my friends that I grew up with while I attended there. And so I had tried out. Originally, the coach at that time was Dave Drabiak. He had now moved on to an Alberta basketball position, but at that time, Dave pulled me aside in the trial and offered me a red shirt position. I was kind of like, red shirt position. I don't know if I want to do that. And I had actually messaged you, and I asked you, like, should I take it? Like, is it worth it being a red shirt for an entire year? I think you had said, like, you should just accept it and just see where the year goes. If you don't play, then you still don't lose a year of eligibility. You're still practicing. And I thought like, yeah, that's something I should just do it. And so I ended up doing it. And long story short, I had started coming off the bench for the team and gave some valuable minutes. And so I kind of worked into a sort of role player position, being a first year guard, and I loved it. And so I played 3 years at Augustana, and then I got to preface this by saying, going to university, I had no clue what I wanted to be growing up. Not a single clue. I love basketball and I love sports, and I knew that kinesiology allowed me to do that, and so I took kinesiology. But then during my 3 years at Augustana, I also started coaching in Muscocheese too, and found the real love of coaching. And so I thought maybe being a teacher would benefit me. So Augustana at that time didn't have a education program, so I transferred to the main campus. So from there, I became an educator along with a kinesiology degree. So yeah, and so now I'm here.
That's awesome. Yeah, good for you. And yeah, I remember that conversation now. And yeah, I think that it's always important to approach it that way, unless you have like another opportunity where you're going to be playing, or you're going to be going to another program where you're going to find a lot of success that works best for you. Like I think from my experience in spending a year redshirting, that opened up my eyes to a lot of things. Like, you never know what's going to happen. Like, you don't know. There's attrition on the basketball team. Like, after the first semester, there could be guys on your team that don't come back for the second term. There's injuries as well. Or you could just find yourself working yourself into that rotation like you did. So, it's always worth it to take that opportunity if it arrives. So, yeah, so it's great to hear you're still involved in the game of basketball. You're coaching. A lot of good things happening at Muscocheese with basketball. You got a good squad there that's coaching the kids up, and you guys are really building something special there. So great to hear that you're still involved in the game today.
I did forget to mention that I'm now coaching and teaching at my local high school in Muscocheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All good.
Muscocheese Free High School.
Yeah, lucky to have you back in your community.
Yeah. So I've been out there now for 7 years, and it's been quite the journey, actually. Like, when I first started, I had come in fresh out of university, knowing I wanted to work in my own community, knowing I wanted to be there. And so I had gotten the job, and I walked into the school August 30th or whatever, end of August, and I walked inside the gym, and I looked inside the gym office, and it was a storage facility, basically. And it looked like it hadn't seen a mop or a broom in years. And I was like, oh man, what did I step myself into? But to be able to see where it is now and how it's doing quite well. And so it's been quite the journey, and I love it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to see you back there in your community. So yeah, so we got our podcast going. Where do you see this? Where do you see this going for us? What do you want to do?
I honestly don't know. We obviously you kind of hope that we have, at least a few people who like to listen to our voices and actually care about what we say. And but I also hope that some younger kids are listening to this, and they have a red shirting opportunity for a university and they actually take it. So um, I just hope to provide an outlet for folks to come on and listen and have a good time. And for in terms of our goals, um, I think that if we're able to secure a lot of guests, that would be awesome. If we can get some people on the pod and have some funny, good conversations, and I think that's what I'm most looking forward to, is sort of just going with the flow and creating some relationships along the way.
Yeah, same with me. I honestly don't know where we're going to take this to, but I'm excited for it, and I'm excited that we have an opportunity to share stories, share our own stories, and talk about a lot of those good times that we had while we were playing basketball together. So next week, we are going to be having our very first interview, and we are going to be interviewing Lyle Tutusis, who's originally from Poundmaker, Saskatchewan, now residing in Edmonton. He is one of the co-founders of our team. He and Mike and I have a long history of playing basketball together. Just being friends, knowing each other for a long time. We'll talk a lot about Lyle and who he is, what he does. He's a well-known drummer and singer. He's been involved in the basketball community for a while. He does a lot of amazing work with Indigenous youth in Edmonton. And we're really lucky to have him here with us for our next episode.
Yeah, and I think he'll be an awesome guest for our first guest, just to sort of talk about what's the meaning, why do you call it War Scouts? And so I think that'll be good.
Yeah, and I really love that name and the way he explained it to us. But we'll save that for the next episode, and we'll just get wrapped up here. Any final thoughts before we go, Mike?
Nope, no final thoughts from me. I hope you have a good rest of your week, and hopefully you get some sleep.
All right, thanks, Mike, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Take care.